All right, let's jump right in. We're going to deconstruct something that on the surface looks kind of boring. A simple menu from a software user manual called Contra Pro 2.6. Yeah, I know. But here's the thing. While it might just seem like a list of features, what we're about to discover is that it's actually a complete blueprint for how a modern business really works.
So the manual kicks things off with a super simple instruction. Select a module. Click on something to see what it does. It's direct, it's clear, but we're not going to do that. Instead of just clicking on one thing, we're going to look at what the entire list of modules tells us. We're going to treat this menu less like instructions and more like the chapters of a story. And that really is our central question, isn't it? How can this simple software menu possibly map out the entire life cycle of a business? I mean, from the very beginning to making sales to even planning for the future. Well, it turns out it can, and it does it brilliantly. Every great business, just like every great house, has to start with a solid foundation. You can't just start building walls and putting on a roof, right? You can't just start selling stuff without first deciding on the rules of the game. You've got to have a structure that everything else can be built on top of. And, well, look at this. The software starts exactly where a business should, with setup and admin. Now think of setup as where you define all the basic rules. Stuff like tax rates, the currency you use, your company details. And admin? That's all about who gets the keys to the castle. You control who has access to what. Together, these two things form the digital bedrock of your entire operation. They make sure everyone is playing by the same rules right from day one. Okay, so our foundation is laid. Now it's time to move into the heart of the business, what I like to call the engine room. This part is all about managing two really key things: your stuff, the products you sell, and your money, the cash that flows in and out. And this just lays out a perfect logical flow. I mean, think about it. First, you got to get the product, right? That's your imports. Then, well, you need to know what you have and where it is. That's inventory. Simple enough. But every single one of those items has a value, and that needs to be recorded somewhere. That brings us to accounting. And finally, all of this costs money and hopefully makes money, which is all managed through cash and bank. See how it all connects? It's like a chain. Your inventory levels have to talk to your accounting books, and your imports have to get paid for from the bank. It's this whole interconnected journey that happens before a product even gets close to a customer. All right, so you've got your structure down, you've got your products in the warehouse. Now for the really crucial part, actually connecting with customers. This is where your business finally steps out into the world and, starts making some money. And really, there are two sides to this coin. On one side, you've got sales and marketing. That's the big picture stuff, finding customers, building relationships, getting your name out there. Then, on the other side, you have POS/retail. That stands for point of sale. That's the moment of truth. It's the cash register, the transaction itself. And in a system like this, which is all connected, your marketing efforts can be directly tied to the actual sales data from that register. It's brilliant. You absolutely need both to succeed. There's a saying, a business that isn't learning is a business that's, stagnating or worse. So after you've made some sales, the next absolutely critical step is to look back at the data and figure out what's actually happening. How do you measure success? Where are the opportunities to get better? So this is basically your business intelligence toolkit. The profit finances module, that gives you the bottom line. It answers the biggest question: are we actually making money? Then analysis lets you dig way deeper. Which products are flying off the shelves? Which months are our busiest? And here's the key. This is only possible because all that data from sales, inventory, and accounting is sitting in one place. And additional features? That's probably where you get custom reports for even more specific questions. This right here is how a business gets smarter. Okay, but wait a minute. This is where it gets really interesting. Most of these modules we've seen are pretty standard for any business that sells products, right? But this one, workshop/repairs, that one kind of stands out. What does that tell us? It strongly suggests this software is tailor-made for businesses that don't just sell things but also service them. Like an electronics store that also does repairs, or maybe a car parts shop with a garage out back. This one little module basically reveals the software's perfect customer. It's a clue. So, when we put all these pieces together, when we step back, we see it's not just some random collection of functions at all. It's a really carefully constructed, totally integrated system that's designed to manage every single part of a business operation.
12. That's the number. 12 distinct modules that we've just walked through. Everything from setting user permissions all the way to analyzing your annual profit. Each one is a critical piece of the puzzle, and when you put them all together, you get a complete, clear picture of how the whole business runs.
And you know what? There's actually a name for this kind of all-in-one system. It's called an ERP, which stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. What we've just decoded from this simple menu is a classic example of an ERP. Think of it as a single source of truth that connects every single part of the organization. And the real power, the magic really, is that everyone, from the person in the warehouse to the cashier on the sales floor to the accountant in the back office, is looking at and working from the exact same data, in real time.
So think about where we started. We just had a simple list of words from a software menu. And from that, we uncovered an entire business strategy hidden right inside. It just goes to show that every part of the business, the foundation, the operations, the sales, the analysis, it all has to work together in perfect harmony. This system gives us one blueprint for success. So the final question I'll leave you with is, what's yours?